Welcome to this particular lecture on microbiology. In this particular lecture, I shall be discussing the phylosphere, the microbial interaction in the phylosphere and its outcome. Now to start with, actually the phylosphere or the phyloplane is the surface of the leaf, and this surface of the leaf is exposed to the wrath of nature, dewdrops, rain, everything. So very often these droplets accumulate on the leaf surface and it actually traps bacteria. So when we see the phylosphere, it may have different types of microorganisms which we apparently do not see. These microorganisms can be saprophytic organisms, but basically these saprophytic organisms, they do not have any role to play. They are just acting as epiphytes, not causing any harm. There may be some prokaryotic organisms which can be pathogenic, and also there may be some eukaryotic microbes like fungal spore and other protozoan. These organisms interact and they give a typical interrelationship. They develop an interrelationship where they may produce some antibiotic-like substance and they will prevent the growth of pathogen. Or they may be commensal, meaning that one organism is benefited from the association of the other, but nobody is harmed. And at the same time, their growth may be increased because of receiving some signal from the atmosphere. Or they can actually modify themselves depending upon the external environmental pressure or effect. Okay. Now, the surface of the leaf can be of different types. It can be smooth, and this smooth, as you can see in this epipremnum leaf, where it is because of the waxy cuticle, it is smooth. Sometimes there may be small hairs on the leaf surface, so it is hairy, rugose hairs as in gourd leaf. Sometimes it can be gland dotted, meaning there will be minute glands located on the surface of the lamina, and this gland dotted leaf can be tuberculate, or at the same time it can be varicose.
Sir, what is the varicose vein?
You see, varicose vein, you can see here the raised vein. The vein is thickened because of the development of glands inside the vein. So these veins produce some secretory substance which can trap bacteria or can prevent bacteria, and also it can protect the excess loss of water by transpiration. Okay. So gland dotted is followed by some glandular trichomes. You can see here the base of the trichome is glandular, and this glandular secretion will protect the plant from getting grazed. Similarly, it can be glaucous, where you can see some powdery growth on the surface or the ventral surface of the leaf. Or it can be punctate, meaning small holes in the form of stomata. Now that brings me to the different ways or different surface nature of the leaf. Sometimes it can be just dry, or sometimes it can be viscid, meaning a viscous fluid is coming out through the glands and that makes the surface slippery. And of course it is protecting in nature. But when we consider the different types of opening, the most important opening is the stomata. The stomata actually, in case of dorsiventral leaf, it is on the ventral surface. In case of isobilateral leaf, it is on both the surfaces. And the stomata is actually having typically reniform guard cells and the stomatal aperture and the subsidiary cells surrounding it. Now actually it is because that the stomata will take in or absorb water, it becomes turgid, and as it becomes turgid it will open. The moment the water comes out, it becomes flaccid and the stomata closes. Now this is a very important phenomenon which is controlled by cell physiology, but at the same time we will see sometimes this opening and closing of stomata may be due to some secondary metabolite produced by the phylosphere organism. Apart from stomata, there may be another type of opening which is called water stomata, or it is also called hydathode. Hydathode actually is a flask-shaped structure having a typical parenchymatous cells called epithene, and there will be tracheidal endings, and this will give out water containing dissolved salt, or which is also called metabolic water. But the important fact is this water will not be liberated on the surface, but it will be on the margin. It will be accumulated like dewdrops. So this type of opening, this type of surface will add dynamism to the leaf surface. Now we come to the different types of interactions. There may be different types of bacteria depending upon the nature of the nutrients available. So at certain times you can see certain areas of the leaf will have huge amount of bacteria. It is because those areas are nutrient enriched. Or sometimes if there is some rain or some water accumulated, those bacteria with the help of flagella will be moving from one part to other part, and this is called bacterial migration. But when we consider this Phylosphere Pseudomonas, which is important that this Pseudomonas bacteria is present on the leaf surface in majority of plants close to the soil surface. They might be having different types of interrelationship. They might give different ions to the plant. They might produce secondary metabolite. They might produce biosurfactant for the attachment or quorum sensing. They might be producing some toxin. They might be producing some pigments, or they might be producing some polysaccharide which is extracellular in nature. So Pseudomonas, that's why, is considered to be a very, very important and a very dominant microorganism on the phyloplane. Now sometimes it so happens that a particular leaf may have some organism which is non-pathogenic to the leaf, but it may be pathogenic to others. One such organism is the Salmonella enterica. It is causing enteric infection in human, but it is located in the lettuce leaf. In the lettuce leaf, they are accumulated near the stomata. So apparently when you are washing the leaf, those bacteria won't go. They are inside the stomata. So they will get into your system and they will cause infection of the gut. So this is another important opportunistic organism present in the form of Salmonella on the leaf surface. Sometimes you cannot see the organism. The organism has gone in and got into the veins. And you can see here this array of green bacteria which is because of fluorescence. This is nothing but E. coli which is moving along the veins. So it is there in the leaf but not causing any harm. Only there may be slight deviation in the circulating fluid. Sometimes it so happens that there may be specific bacteria which is pathogenic in nature. And this pathogenic bacteria, you cannot really say that this bacteria is harmless, because you can see here this Pseudomonas syringae is developing distinct lesion. Depending upon the nature of the lesion, distribution of the lesion, you can say this particular tomato plant might have been some protective means by which it has protected itself from Pseudomonas syringae. Or in other words, that Pseudomonas has actually remained within a specific area of the leaf, so the disease had not spread. And it so happens that sometimes there may be specific reaction. These opportunistic pathogenic organisms will send across specific pathogen associated molecular pattern, which is commonly called PAMP. And this PAMP signal sometimes can actually bring about stomatal closing. And because of stomatal closing, the normal gaseous exchange will not take place and the leaf might show some sort of infection.
So I have a question. Apart from stomatal closing, what are the other ways of PAMP expression?
Yeah, you see, PAMP actually brings about different other factors as well. That may include the production of salicylic acid, the production of abscisic acid. That means also toxin production. So in both way, sometimes it can make the leaf more susceptible to a disease, or sometimes it can actually initiate a reaction called systemic acquired resistance through the production of salicylic acid. Or in other words, the leaf becomes protected from future infection of the bacteria. Okay, this is a unique case where Pseudomonas syringae is invading the Arabidopsis. Now Pseudomonas syringae is a pathogen. So it has got some tools of pathogenesis, and this tool include the HOP-M1 gene. And this HOP-M1 gene is virulent bacteria which is accepted by specific receptor on the Arabidopsis leaf, which is called T3SS, not through any other receptor. So it will get into the particular system of the leaf and it will activate specific RAD reaction, and this RAD mediated reaction will ultimately set in the infection and there will be specific symptoms appearing. And in the process, they may generate excess protein which is actually degraded by proteasome mechanism. So in other words, I am saying that there are specific molecular signals which actually will indicate whether one bacteria will be pathogenic to a plant or it will be resistant. Okay. Now sometimes it so happens, it is not always pathogenic, but there may be certain bacteria which will form a trail, and this trail will, you can see under electron microscope here in case of Burkholderia. In Burkholderia, you can see they are forming a chain because of the attachment, end-to-end attachment of the extracellular polysaccharide attachment. And sometimes whenever they get the opportunity, they will get inside the leaf. Now coming to the leaf surface, nature of the leaf surface. You see, the leaf apparently is not a smooth surface. So there will be crevices, cracks, and these crevices are the ideal point where the bacterial pathogen or the bacterial epiphytes will locate themselves. And when they locate, you can see this is a minor crevice where you can see maximum accumulation of bacteria. It may be pathogenic, it may be non-pathogenic. But sometimes if apparently the surface is glaucous or smooth, then what happens is the bacteria will try to adhere to themselves so that they are not easily washed out with rainwater, and they produce this extracellular surfactant mechanism by which they attach to themselves. Another very interesting point, it is because of this extracellular material, sometimes this bacteria may act as a biocontrol agent. Say for example, this is a fungal spore which is surrounded by this bacteria, and ultimately this bacterial population will prevent the fungal spore to germinate, and thereby will protect the plant from fungal infection. So it is also a unique case where the plant is being protected. Whenever an organism is growing on a particular surface, it needs nourishment. So there are some specific mechanism by which they get nourishment, and one such nourishment is the plant sugar, which is sucrose. So you can see here, in case of Xanthomonas campestris, which is causing the leaf blight disease in different plants, in beans also, here they have activated some specific SUC-A and SUC-C gene. This gene will allow the transport of sucrose, and this sucrose will get inside, and with the entry of this sucrose, this entire SUX operon is activated, as a result of which the pathogenicity mechanism is switched on. So it's a unique phenomenon where we can say the availability of sucrose from the plant surface will make the bacteria very much virulent. Whenever an organism is remaining on a surface, it will modify the surface. So accordingly, the leaf surface may be undulating, and this undulation is made further undulating by Pseudomonas colonization. So apparently when the leaf surface, which was not that rough, becomes rough because of too much bacterial colonization. And that is why it is essential that we have to clearly wash it if it is a consumable leaf. Now, sometimes it so happens that they produce specific toxin. One such toxin is the tolacine production. Tolacine is produced from Pseudomonas tolacea, and the tolacine actually help in aggregation of the bacteria and entry inside the leaf. So this is the tolacine structure which is helping the survivability of Pseudomonas tolacea on the leaf surface. At the same time, there may be some specific toxin like syringomycin produced by Pseudomonas syringae. This toxin will enable to induce infection in discrete colonies. Here you can see the colony is very small. This small green bacterial colony has induced infection because of the presence of syringomycin. So toxin mediated infection of the leaf organism is also very common. It so happens that some of the leaves will show more necrotic lesion, some will show less necrotic lesion. So this necrosis is definitely dependent on the concentration of syringomycin. If syringomycin concentration is more, then naturally there will be more infection. If it is less, the infection is discrete. It is not that much detrimental for the plant. Now we come to some different tools with which the different phylosphere organisms can enter. In this particular diagram, you can see that particular invasion of Pseudomonas syringae is through specific stomata. So the bacteria is entering through stomata, producing the secondary metabolite inside. Sometimes it may be entry with the help of typical root-like or sac-like root called Hostoria. Sometimes it may be with the help of Appressoria. Sometimes it may be entering into form of intercellular hyphae and colonizing inside, producing secondary metabolite inside, and develop a colony inside. So it becomes a subepidermal colony. Okay.
So I have a question. What is the function of Appressorium?
appressorium will keep the fungus appressed, meaning it will help in the attachment of the pathogenic fungi on the leaf surface. Clear? Now, it so happens that whenever a phyloplane is exposed to some organism, it may not be pathogenic. But because of this exposure, it might activate specific signals, which may include calcium, which may include MAPK, which may include ROS. And because of this particular activation, when actual pathogen will attack at a later stage with certain secondary metabolite, the plant is protected. So this type of induced systemic resistance is also very common because of the interaction of the phyllosphere organism. And this is a very unique case. You can see that this is a fungus. It has produced the appressoria, and the appressoria has actually gone inside with the infection peg. It has activated some specific POX12 gene inside the plant, producing a nodule. And actually this POX12 will actually activate peroxidase and will break down the peroxide to water and oxygen. So bleaching action may be averted. But because of this activation of the POX12, there may be other genes like AVR genes. This AVR group of gene will become active, as a result of which the stomata will open. And as the stomata opens, that is the gateway for other bacteria to move inside. So if it is pathogenic, one particular fungus has made it possible for another bacteria to enter the leaf surface. It's a unique case. Now it's a very important phenomenon where I will discuss the change in the different surface because of external deposition. One such deposition is ice nucleation. Ice nucleation you can see all over the leaf, but when we see it under scanning electron microscope, we will find that there are specific bacteria within which has caused this nucleation. And when we see that this nucleation will result in frost damage, so the mesophyll tissue gets damaged, as seen in this particular scanning electron micrograph. So what we can say, that formation of ice crystal is because of some prior bacterial colonization, and if there is less ice damage, so definitely we can conclude that bacterial colonization may be less.
Is bacteria only responsible for ice nucleation?
Bacteria is an important point to be noted for ice nucleation, but it is not the only factor. You can understand it can be a silica, it can be a dust particle, any foreign particle which is getting adhered to the leaf surface can be the probable case of ice nucleation. Clear? Now another point, these days we have acid rain, acidity increases. So very often we see whenever the leaf is damaged with some acid rain, there will be the modification of the leaf surface and colonization of the acidophile. So acidophile infection, as you can see here, is very common because of this acid rain or acid related damage of the leaf surface. Sometimes it so happens that there may be specific interaction of insect causing bacterial infection. If there is a particular insect, they are damaging the leaf, and through this damaged portion, the Xanthomonas can colonize and cause disease in maize leaf. This is a unique scanning electron micrograph where you can see that two colonizing fungi are there. One is the Trichoderma, other one is Alternaria. Alternaria is causing leaf disease, whereas Trichoderma is the thinner one which is preventing the growth of Alternaria. So two antagonistic fungi will prevent the infection in the leaf, and thereby we can say this is also a unique case of fungal biocontrol. Now sometimes there may be some specific toxin like the Alternaria malitoxin. This AM toxin actually will produce typical pathogenic symptom caused by other fungi in apple leaf. So toxin production, like in bacteria, is also equally important in case of fungus. This is another interaction between insect and the bacteria, where you can see this caterpillar is being killed because of the Bacillus thuringiensis toxin produced by the phyllosphere bacteria. So it is also a natural case where the insect damage is being reduced because of prior bacterial infection. Another point, here you can see in this leaf, the gall incidence is more if bacterial infection is less. And the surface epiphytic bacteria has reduced the number of gall. So what does it mean? It means that the bacteria has prevented insect colonization. So it is good to the plant. And this is Septoria infection on the phylloplane, you can see that these lesions are restricted, but these lesions are more fused and the damage of the leaf is more. Why this is? It is because of the fact that if the phylloplane is having too much epiphytic fungi, then the septoria related damage is minimized, or in other words, the septoria infection is checked because of phylloplane friendly microbe. Sometimes the fungi may be present on the leaf surface, it tries to enter, and when it enters it finds some other bacteria inside the mesophyll tissue. So that also will prevent infection and damage to the leaf, as you can see in this particular case, where the bacteria is present inside, but it is not allowing the fungal mycelia to ramify and develop inside the leaf surface. So this is another unique case where I can actually protect the plant from fungal infection. So thereby we can see that the phylloplane is a unique surface. The phylloplane on one hand is having friendly bacteria, epiphytic bacteria. Some of these bacteria may produce secondary metabolite and turn pathogenic. Some of these bacteria may actually induce biological control, killing other insects, killing other fungi. Or sometimes it so happens one fungal mycelia accidentally growing on the leaf will prevent other fungal pathogen to grow. Or sometimes it so happens that the surface living organisms may produce some hormones and secondary metabolites which are useful for the plant, and it will allow the plant to grow. So this particular study of the phylloplane gives us a unique opportunity to allow the plant to grow and develop and thereby improve our food production. Thank you.